I would love to see a collab with you and Ruth Carter. Oh my God. Woo! I don't know if costume designers work together. I don't know how that works.
I love Ruth's work, and Ruth was very generous. She sponsored me to get into the academy. Like, she was my sponsor. So she brought me, you know, like I owe a lot to Ruth. So wow. Thank you for mentioning her.
Good afternoon. This is Tanisha Laverne Grant with blackinamerica.com. I am super excited to bring to the platform a multi-award winning costume designer. Her work, you have seen, believe me, you have seen over the decades in your favorite films, Men in Black, Slumdog Millionaire, The Namesake, which is one of my favorites. I think I cried 1,000 times watching The Namesake. So welcome to the platform, Sutirat on Larlab. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you very much.
Oh, girl, where can I begin with you? I mean, you have this amazing education, this amazing background from North Carolina, Stanford, Yale, Fulbright Fellow. How did you come to costume design, you know, as your, what I'm going to say, this is going to be your legacy, you know, what you've done in cinema.
Thank you for reminding me of the weight of all of this. But yeah, no, when I was little, I just was really drawn to clothing and fashion magazines. And I always thought when I was a teenager that I was going to go into fashion. My parents had a different idea for me. You know, they were both first generation immigrants from Thailand. And, you know, like, when you come from an immigrant family, a lot of the pressure is to just make sure that your kids are well taken care of and can survive in the world. Yeah. And, you know, the arts aren't really a guarantee towards any kind of success. And especially, I think if you're an immigrant family, you're not necessarily pushing your kids to like go off and do something in such an insecure field, you know? So I kind of was being trained to, you know, maybe go into medicine or law or you know, something more stable and maybe with a little bit more of a guarantee of a life of, you know, struggle, to the extent that is possible to guarantee. But I just kept being drawn to clothing, and I picked a university. I went to Brown for the first year of my college time. And I thought I could just sort of slip into fashion design classes at the Rhode Island School of Design, but that wasn't quite possible the year I went. So I had this free spot in my schedule, and there was this intro to costume design class in the theater department at Brown. And I was like, in my naive mind, thought, oh, that's vaguely like, you know, that's got to be fashion to a degree. And when I sat through that class, even just week one, I was like, oh my God, this is so much more and so much better than what I imagined it could be. And it was a sort of, you know, like the coalescence of obviously clothing, but art history, psychology, pop culture, history, anthropology, all these things that melded into one field. And I thought, okay, yeah, this is what I want to pursue. So I kind of knew from a very, you know, like probably 17 or 18 that this is the path I wanted to, you know, strive to, you know, keep going on. So yeah, here we are today.
That's fantastic. And it's really important for anyone who's watching this interview to understand, like, you just don't like roll into these amazing fields. You know what I mean? It's just a level of work and study and dedication that it takes to be an award-winning, multi-award winning, you know, costume designer for major feature films. For anyone out there who, you know, who's watching, No Time to Die is out right now in theaters, and the work that Sutirat has done on this film is breathtaking. You make me want to run around in a slip gown.
And you could do it. You know, that's the whole point.
Thinking that I could, you know, just like run the world, you know. What inspired the costume designs for this particular Bond movie. I mean, they're just so elegant, so fascinating. I mean, what you did with Naomie Harris, with Moneypenny, like everything, blouses just tight and waist and, pencil skirts, and, Daniel Craig with the tuxedo, and Paloma, with this slip gown that is just so burned in my head. Like, I want a slip gown now. Is that what you're calling it? Like, what do you call that kind of gown? I mean, it's so... It just moves with her.
Yeah. I mean, it was very, very, very thin. It's true. It's very thin, lightweight. It's like a shard of fabric, basically, stuck to her body.
I heard you describe it in one interview as diaphanous. Was that the word you used?
Yeah. It's got a lot of air mobility in it. It just... actually, it's interesting. To go back to the beginning of your question, how do I even start approaching this? It's all character based, like obviously there's the scripts, the read of the script, and my sort of instincts from reading the script, discussions with the director. What does he want to say about these characters? And then when I meet the actors for the first time, really like super deep dig into what their character possibilities could be. All the new characters like Naomie or Paloma, all the returning characters, obviously Bond and the crew at MI6, including Moneypenny, new character like Rami Malek's character. It's very, to me, costume has always been an extension of character behavior. With a Bond film comes this extra layer of this expected elegance, finger on the pulse of what's to come if it's fashion, a kind of almost aspirational quality to it. Everybody just looks good and it feels instinctual. All the characters don't feel like characters who are kind of weighing too heavily in the morning in front of their closet. Which shirt I'm gonna wear with which jacket,
Yeah.
So it was a good challenge for me because I find myself to be a little bit of an understated designer in that way. Like, I really kind of I guess give way more to what the actor needs to really embody a character. But of course, with a Bond film, the aesthetics are such a big there's so much expectation on that and such a long legacy and a history with it. So you've got to factor that in. And so with all of these characters, I had a good solid sit down with them the first time we all met individually. Wow. We talked about character, and some of them with the returning characters, I wanted to make sure they knew that I was coming into their world. They knew these characters better than me. Moneypenny knows who Moneypenny is better than I do, So I would then take these conversations and put them through the millstone of my imagination. I have a huge reference library at home in New York.
Oh, wow.
I have right hands and left hands assistant designers who kind of understand like my... the research is really important to me. Like, even though they're going to look flash on screen, each of these characters is a full-fledged professional something, right? Like, what is the thing that they've worked their entire lives to get to? Moneypenny's come through being a field agent all the way to being like, a right hand to the head of MI6 in terms of like political power structure access. She's got it. So she's got to look that part,
Pardon me for cutting you off, but every time Naomie comes on the screen, as Moneypenny, I was just blown away. The fit for every ensemble that you had her in was just perfection, along with every other character. But as someone, who works, in TV news, and you have to look a certain way and your clothes have to be a certain way on your body. I was just like, wow, she's going to bring back the whole blouse. I'm a woman of a certain age, and I refer to, certain tops that are silk and, chartreuse blouses. My niece is like, what's a blouse?
It's not just a top.
I'm like, a blouse is something very sophisticated, very elegant. You wear it with slacks. She's like, but what slacks? Oh goodness.
Well, you bring up a good point, and like what you said, if we're gonna say Moneypenny rather than Naomie, Moneypenny is a character who has to be like, she's presenting, people come into MI6, she has got to look like the role she is, right? She is the access to, and in many Bond films is a plot driver. Like
Yeah.
she's the one that James Bond counts on to get him inside, right? So she's, you know, that on the one hand, she's very close to and wants to help whatever James's instincts are that might be going against the grain of what MI6 officially wants to do. But she resides in the power structure of MI6. So she's got to have that kind of, it's not a first lady look. It's sort of like senatorial kind of, you know, almost like a power lawyer. You know, it's just hyper professional, but in the world of Bond, super elegant. Yeah, exactly. Precisely. Right. Like somebody who, you know, is self-possessed, you know, just has access to things and will always be somebody that you can trust and rely on. So there couldn't be anything fussy looking about her, right? She's just sharp, and she just has to like embody sharp, not just in terms of aesthetics, but in intelligence, right? So, so that sort of, in a nutshell, covers maybe the approach to each of the characters, is really kind of spending time on like, what is it about your profession? What is it about the needs of what you're going to be doing in the course of this film that are going to kind of be reflected by, enhanced by, give you the scope to just fully embody that character. Yeah.
I loved it. I mean, watching the Jamaica scene, you know, was beautiful. You know, the ensembles in that scene were remarkable as well. You know, since you're right, have you ever come to the canvas, you know, while you're working on some of these, you know, major motion films, you know, you have your ideas, you know, you go to the wardrobe fitting and you're like, you know what, scrap the whole thing out, gotta start over.
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
what I thought it was.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think lesson number one for young aspiring designers is kind of not to be precious about anything. And it doesn't mean that you don't have it doesn't mean that none of your instincts are ever going to be right, or that you can't, you know, fight tooth and nail for an idea you really believe in. No, that still happens. It's just that sometimes the situation changes, the script changes, or something about the actors wanting to perform it in a different way changes. Just like you could be the weather that day. I don't know. But there's sometimes there are like these je ne sais quoi factors that enter the equation, and you're just like, everything I thought I had planned out to the best of, I like forethought everything I could think, and I'm sure this is going to write. And you get in the room and it's like a living, breathing human being wearing these things, and you're just like, there's something not speaking to me. They might say it first, the actor. If you can, you know, you're in a fitting, you've got to be able to read the room as well. It's like, do you feel like they're able to do what they need to do? Can they see themselves in this role? You know, and it becomes that kind of conversation, and unspoken kind of trust starts to emerge. And I might just like be like, you know what, this seems right, and it's just missing one thing, and I'll go into like my left field rail. I have like a rail of like the left field choices, right?
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
So it's like
Love that.
things that are kind of, you know, they're floating away in your subconscious, and you just have them in the room just in case, like the panic stuff. And sometimes that's the answer, you know?